David, a young hairstylist, was thrilled to be working at his dream salon under a well-known mentor. But one evening, when a little girl named Emma walked in asking for a simple haircut, David had no idea that this small act of kindness would lead to an unexpected twist, bringing him face to face with a life-changing connection he never saw coming. When I was in second grade, I was quite the little troublemaker. I can do anything, I thought, filled with weird confidence. And my mom was always at her wit's end. It was a Saturday, and while my mom was busy with housework, I was playing around, cutting paper with scissors. At first, I was just cutting up flyers and some craft paper, but then I saw my reflection in the mirror and decided to try and mimic the hairstyle of my favorite basketball player at the time. I can do it, I thought, and started chopping off my hair while looking at a magazine. My mom noticed what I was doing and hurriedly took the scissors from me, but it was already too late. My unevenly cut hair was definitely not something I could go to school with, and my mom was really stressed out about it. Thanks to my wild confidence, I thought my new haircut wasn't half bad. But once I saw my reflection in the mirror, I totally lost it and blurted out, "I'm not going to school anymore." This just made my mom even more stressed out. When my dad got home from work and saw my hair, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. His reaction only embarrassed me more, and I ended up locking myself in my room. Outside my room, I could hear my mom scolding my dad, and part of me thought, serves him right. But at the same time, I started worrying, what am I going to do about school on Monday? And tears began to well up. As I was caught up in these thoughts, I heard a knock on the door. From outside the room, my dad said, "David, sorry for laughing. How about we go to a barber shop tomorrow, run by a friend of mine?" He called out to me, "I'm sure the barber can fix your hair. So, how about you come out of your room and we grab some dinner together?" He suggested. "Really?" I peeked out from my room, and my dad confidently said, "Yep, it'll be fine." He patted my head, and we had dinner together. My mom kept giving my dad dirty looks every time he almost laughed, though. The next day, my dad took me to a hair salon for the first time. Until now, I usually had my hair cut by my mom or at a local barber shop, so the fancy salon made me feel a bit nervous. "Long time no see, David. You've grown so much," said the handsome staff who approached me. That person was my dad's friend, Bill, who also happened to be the manager of the salon. I didn't remember meeting him before, so I just stared at him talking and laughing with my dad. "You were just a baby last time we met. It's almost like meeting for the first time." "Nice to meet you," he said as he patted my head. "All right, let's make you look cool," and led me to a chair. Sitting in the chair, I was so tense it felt like my body had turned to stone. And out of embarrassment, I couldn't even lift my head. Bill tried to relax me by asking about school and my favorite sports, and when I mentioned my favorite basketball player, "No way. He's my favorite player too. Did you want the same hairstyle as him?" I nodded stiffly. Then Bill shared, "When I was your age, I wanted the same hairstyle as my favorite basketball player too. I chopped it all off with scissors at home. My mom got mad, and she took to a barber shop nearby. I ended up with a buzz cut and laughed heartily. His laughter was contagious, and I couldn't help but join in. But don't worry, I won't give you a buzz cut. I'll make you look as cool as that basketball player," he said as he started cutting, keeping the conversation light to ease my tension. "All right, how's this?" I was shocked when I looked in the mirror. The reflection showed a completely transformed me, and my dad was also impressed with the change. And it somewhat resembles my favorite basketball player's hairstyle, which took me by surprise. I couldn't help but exclaim, "You're a genius. Now I can't wait to go to school tomorrow." "Thank you so much." And when I said that, Bill said, Hearing you say that makes me really happy. I can definitely keep going strong tomorrow. Bill said this with a sparkle in his eyes, and from that moment, I started to admire the profession of hairstyling. My admiration turned into a dream, and after graduating high school, I enrolled in a barber school. After that, I got a job as a hairstylist apprentice at a local salon. The salon was well known locally, and the manager, Rick, was highly skilled and considered a charismatic figure in the industry. I had known about Rick since my school days and had always wanted to work at his salon. I even went there as a customer. Rick never let the title of charismatic get to his head. He was always kind and approachable. He had his salon in a different location before, but a few years ago, he moved to the current location. Since opening, he has been loved by both customers and the community, creating a great atmosphere in the salon. And the staff are wonderful people too. After I graduate, I really want to work at your salon, Rick. I kept telling Rick this, and every time he would say, David, you're the only one who's been so persistent about wanting to work at my salon. And he would laugh. During the job interview, he said, I have just one question. What kind of hairstylist do you want to be? And I answered, I want to be a hairstylist who makes people smile. He quietly smiled and nodded. It's a simple thing, but it's also difficult. But I'm sure you'll make a great hairstylist. And he reached out his hand. Looking forward to working with you, David. And just like that, I was accepted to work with him. I was relieved my dream had come true so soon, but I later heard that many other students had also applied to work at Rick's salon. However, Rick had told the school, I want to hire David as part of the team. He's the only one who's been so eager, consistently coming in and expressing his desire to join us. We'll go through a formal interview process through the school. So, it turned out to be a formality. Still, I wanted to prove myself to Rick for hiring someone like me. So after getting the job, I eagerly took on all sorts of tasks as an assistant. After hours, I practiced cutting hair with the senior hairstylist, and Rick sometimes joined us for training sessions. One day, something happened that changed everything for me. I was originally supposed to go out to eat with Rock and a senior hairstylist, but the senior hairstylist couldn't make it, and it ended up being just Rick and me. After closing, Rick was in the office, and I was finishing up on the floor. Suddenly, I heard the shop door open. I stopped cleaning and was about to say, Sorry, we're actually closed, when I turned to the entrance and was surprised. There stood a girl with unkempt hair. She looked to be in the early grades of elementary school. Her hair was overgrown, likely never combed. As I was taken aback,
Could you make my hair pretty for $1? Please?
the girl said in a timid, thin voice while fidgeting. Shocked by this sudden event, I asked, What? Where are your parents? As I approached, I noticed her clothes were dirty. Feeling something was off, but unsure what to do, I was pondering when Rick came from the back and asked, What's going on? He came over. I went to Rick and whispered, This girl just walked in wanting a haircut. Seems she's alone. What should we do? Plus, she only has $1. What? While saying that, Rick glanced at the girl, and his expression seemed to stiffen for a moment. No way. It was very softly said, but I heard Rick say it. Do you know her? I asked Rick, and he responded, David, you should cut her hair. The payment is fine as it is. He just said that, and then went back to the rear of the salon. I hurried after Rick, but I've never cut a customer's hair before. I don't think I can do it. Rick said with a slightly trembling voice, still facing away. It's okay. You've practiced a lot. You can do it. He said only that, and then looked down. Confused, I returned to the girl and knelt down to meet her gaze. You'll be my first customer. Is that okay? As I said this, the girl looked a bit relieved.
That's great, please do.
She answered. Even though she's a young girl, she's still a customer. My heart was pounding with nervous excitement for my first haircut, wishing Rick was beside me. But seeing Rick looking different than usual, I felt it wasn't the right time to speak up. So I steeled myself. I guided the girl to the chair and asked what kind of hairstyle she wanted, and she said,
I wanted to look pretty so that mommy will be happy.
her voice was filled with a quiet sadness. I felt a pang at her words, but didn't dwell on it much at the time, and I said, all right, I'll make you look pretty. I flipping through a magazine with her, discussing and deciding on a hairstyle. Initially, the girl kept her head down, but as we talked, she gradually started to look up and began to smile. After the final touches, the girl in the mirror had a different expression from when she arrived, her eyes sparkling as she looked at her reflection.
Wow, I look awesome. Emma looks so cute.
She said, very happily, your name is Emma. That's a beautiful name, I said, her expression clouding slightly.
Daddy picked my name. But mommy and daddy don't live together anymore, and mommy's not home a lot. Today, mommy said I'm not pretty, so maybe she doesn't come home because of that. So I thought if I got prettier, maybe she would come back. I thought it would cost more, but I only have $1. I'm sorry.
Emma said, looking down. Holding back tears, I said, she will for sure. Your mom will say you're pretty. Thank you for being my first customer, I told her, and Emma's expression brightened instantly
Thank you.
as she handed me the dollar. That dollar felt heavier and more valuable than any I'd ever held. It was already past 8 p.m., and I knew I couldn't let her walk home alone. So I decided to call Rick over. I asked Rick, do you think her parents know where she is? He sighed and said, let's talk to her and see if we can find out what's going on with her mom. He sounded different, his usual upbeat tone replaced with concern. Worried, I asked Emma if her mom knew she was here. She said no and mentioned she lived just 3 blocks away from the salon. I asked Rick what we should do, and he suggested walking her home to make sure she got there safely. When we got to the front of the apartment, it was clear something was off. There were no lights, and it looked like nobody was home. Emma, is your mom still at work? Her smiling face changed and said,
Mom's at a friend's house tonight, so she told me to just buy something to eat with this dollar.
as she explained, I realized that the money she gave me was meant for her dinner. I was shocked and couldn't believe what I was hearing. Anger welled up inside me as I noticed Rick trembling beside me. Rick, what the hell is wrong with her? Hey Rick, I can't believe this. Suddenly, he shouted in anger, and the next moment, he collapsed in tears. Rick, are you okay? I was stunned by the sudden turn of events, and as I stood there, bewildered, Emma approached Rick and
Are you hurt? It's okay, don't cry.
she gently patted Rick's head. Then, Rick hugged Emma. Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I finally found you, he said, sobbing. Emma asked,
Daddy, are you my daddy?
yes, I am. Your daddy. I'm so sorry. I couldn't see you until now, he said, hugging her tightly, and Emma also started crying. I was frozen, unable to fully grasp the situation, but after calming down a bit, Rick quietly started to explain. Rick had been married, but due to his wife's excessive spending and repeated infidelity, they had divorced years ago. Rick was supposed to get custody of Emma, but his ex-wife's family and lawyer argued that a child should be with their mother. At the end, she got custody, and Rick had to pay child support. At first, Rick could visit Emma a couple of times a month, but then excuses about timing or sickness stopped those visits. And Rick was left only to pay the child support, his desire to see Emma growing stronger. Contact information was changed, and all means of communication were cut off, leaving him desperate. He learned that Emma lived nearby, so he chose to relocate his salon to this area, despite originally intending to keep it at its previous location. I thought maybe being here would give me a chance to see you. I always believed I'd get to see you again someday. I recognized you right away, but I was worried you wouldn't remember me since it's been so long. I was scared, and I couldn't bring myself to tell you I was your dad earlier. Seeing how much you've grown, I'm so happy we finally get to meet. I was surprised to see a side of Rick I hadn't seen before, but as a dad, his face was softer and kinder than ever. Emma said,
I barely remember Daddy, but I do remember how kind he was to me. I've always wished I could see him again, but every time I talked about Daddy, Mommy would get angry. She'd leave to stay with friends because she said I wasn't pretty, and it made me feel so alone.
she said, looking down. Then Rick took action. He called the police and the local child services. The police came and did a quick check, but they said child services needed to handle things further, so the police left within an hour. Rick found the mother's cell phone number in the house and tried calling his ex-wife. His face was tense, but while we waited on a bench, his usual calmness returned. Emma, how about we go to Dad's house today? Is that okay? I've already spoken to Mom. Emma replied,
Yes. Yay.
with a bursting smile, and Rick's face showed relief. How about we grab something to eat? I was actually planning to go out for dinner with this guy here. What would you like to eat, Emma? Just let me know, and we can get anything you want. After eating lots at a burger place, as requested by Emma, the two went back to Rick's house. Rick and Emma, holding hands and looking so happy, seemed like the perfect father and daughter, as if no time had ever passed. Later, Rick worked out a new custody arrangement with his ex-wife. After a lot of back and forth, it was clear that Emma should be with Rick, and custody was officially granted to him. Emma also wanted to stay with Rick, which was a major factor in the decision. Since then, Emma has come to the shop after school, and now she is cherished by the customers and staff as the salon's darling daughter. Whenever her hair grows a bit, she comes to me and,
David, can you cut my hair again?
now instead of a $1, she gives me a candy. Rick joked about the situation. Emma insists that only you can cut her hair and won't let anyone else do it, he said with a mock resentful tone, playfully slapping my shoulder. A few months later, unusually quickly, I was promoted to junior stylist. Although I only do simple cuts, chatting with customers, seeing them trust me and enjoying my cuts gives me a great sense of fulfillment. When I was promoted, I asked Rick the reason, and he said, having watched you cut Emma's hair and having seen hundreds of apprentices, honestly, I've never seen anyone with as much natural talent as you. It was the happiest compliment I had ever received. The senior hairstylists were also impressed by my skills and supported my promotion to junior stylist. Rick had been observing how I interacted with customers during Emma's haircuts, and he said, it's incredible how you make customers smile. Indeed, my eye wasn't wrong about you. I'm excited to see what you'll do next, David, he said with a warm laugh, and it filled me with a mix of joy and gratitude.